This isn't just a build, it's a build battle build. Welcome to the second ever build battle. My competition is Cyclone and Lunatali, and this build battle takes place in Path of Exile 2. Like the last battle, there are restrictions. The budget is only 3 divines. And this is off meta again, so the following skill gems are banned. Archmage, Ice Strike, Spark, Lightning Arrow, Lightning Rod, and Magnetic Salvo. The Hand of Wisdom and Action gloves are also banned. We need you to decide which one of us has won. In the description you'll find a link to a poll where you can vote on your winner. Because of all the combo skills in Path of Exile 2, there's normally a lot of buttons to press, and I've been wanting to do a build where you press very few buttons. Introducing the Corpsewade Poison Pathfinder. It uses the sum total of 3 buttons. Of these 3, one of them is only used if we run out of minions. The other 2 are used only if we come up against rare or bosses. The build has a number of pros. The first being that it's quite relaxing to play. It's actually really tanky, and we'll get into why in the defensive section. The other bonus with it is it's extremely cheap to get going. The unique boots we use are only 2 Exalted Orbs, and you only need 2 Lesser Jeweler's Orbs to get the build fully running. There are also a couple of cons. Sometimes we can run out of minions. This is very rare since I got 12. When I had 10, I ran out a lot. Don't know why. The second one is monsters that deal a lot of fire damage can ignite our toxic cloud, completely blowing it up and ending the effect. For this, I also have Poisonous Concoction, which I use to add some damage in these scenarios, and also if I run out of minions. Maps with Burning Ground will also cause the clouds to explode, meaning they're very slow to run. I would avoid them. The final is you can't use this build to level with. You'll need to be at least Act 4 or 5 to transition, and it's probably worth waiting for maps. The low level version of these boots can be really expensive, even though the high level version is really cheap. And lastly, and this is a big one, we are quite slow. We can only use 10% increased movement speed boots. How this build works. Basically, we have a load of minions surrounding us. As we walk around, we will use these live minions as corpses, causing them to decompose and spread out a toxic cloud. This cloud is extremely potent, causing any monster to be trapped within it to gain poison stacks, 8 of them. We then convert these enemies to toxic clouds, making it even stronger. All the while, our minions, which are clerics, are resurrecting the ones we just blew up. So for the offences of this build, the vast majority of it is we just turn our minions into fart. We then soften up any rares or bosses using a set of wither stacks and a despair curse. In reality, most of the rares die before you even notice they were there, so it's probably just bosses. Onto the defences now, and this build is extremely tanky. It's actually hard to die. First off, we're completely immune to chaos because we are CI. All of our resistances are of course overcapped, and we have 74% chance to evade, have over 5.5k energy shield, which is always overflowed, so normally around 11,000 and a bit. Not to mention, we're pretty much always surrounded by meat shields. Onto the skill gems now, and we can't really talk about our main skill Decompose without talking about the boots. Because the boots give us this skill. Now the maximum skill you can get off the boots is a level 19 Decompose, but that's too divine, so I go for the level 18. The difference is 0.5% of monster life. So that is the life of the corpse that causes the poisons. And I just don't think that 0.5% of damage is worth 2 divines. It is also the boots that give us the number of sockets we have on the gem. For this level of Decompose, it is 4 support gems. This saves us the cost of a greater Jeweler's Orb. Do note that it is not possible to increase the number of sockets without changing the boots, and there are no boots higher than this socket-wise. The boots are also the reason we are so slow. They only have 10% movement speed, but anyway, the skill links. To Decompose, we link Comorbidity. This gives us +1 poison from supported skills, which our Ascendancy then doubles up. Next is Deadly Poison. This lowers our hit damage by 25%, whilst increasing our poison magnitude by 75%, meaning our poisons do way more damage. Second to last is Corpse Conservation. This gives us a 25% chance to not destroy a corpse when we consume it. Along with a 40% on the tree, this gives us 65%. This is absolutely essential to make sure our minions are up as long as possible. And for the last support gem, we go Magnified Effect, increasing our area of effect by 40%. I haven't yet found the need to switch this out for bossing, but there are other alternatives that would give you greater damage, such as Concentrated Effect, resulting in a smaller cloud but greater damage. Our next skill is a backup skill just in case we run out of minions. This is Poisonous Concoction, and to it we link Scattershot for more projectiles, Martial Tempo for quicker throwing speed, Chaos Mastery for +1 level to support his chaos skills, and Chaos Infusion for 25% more damage. Very rarely use this skill, only if I run out of minions, and I've been running out less and less as I've got more and more minions as I've leveled. This skill is provided by our Ascendancy, and we could switch it out for something else, but nothing else really jumps out at me on the Ascendancy. This also means though that we don't need to level the number of support gems on this just like the boots, because our Ascendancy grants it as we level up. The next skill gem we're going to talk about is really important. It's the fuel that gives us the poison clouds, the Skeletal Cleric. These skeletons heal other minions and bring them back to life. The first support gem is Meat Shield. This gives our monsters 50% more maximum life, which is 50% more damage. There is also a damage penalty, but this doesn't matter because our skeletons don't do any damage themselves, it's just their explosion that does. Next is Minion Mastery for +1 level to supported minion skills. This inadvertently increases their life, increasing our damage. Our last slot goes to Ingenuity. This is 30% increased cooldown recovery rate. This decreases the time between revivals so our skeletal clerics can bring other monsters back much quicker. Our next skill is Eye of Winter. This is what we use to apply our Wither stacks. It should be noted that this will not apply Wither until we get pure chaos on the tree. This causes all skills to do a small amount of their damage as extra chaos damage. A skill must deal chaos damage in order to apply Wither. The support gems we use on this are Withering Touch, which actually applies our Wither, Inspiration, which gives it 40% less cost, and Persistence, which makes the Wither last longer. The final non-aura skill is Despair. This applies a curse that lowers an enemy's chaos resistance, meaning they take more damage. This is linked to Heightened Curse for more curse effect, and Focus Curse, meaning the circle on the ground that applies the curse appears 30% quicker. For our auras, we use 2 of them. We were using 3 with Ghost Dance, but that was never proccing, so I switched it off. The first aura is Sacrifice. This allows you to treat any minion that revives as a corpse. This is the central pillar of how the build works, so is absolutely essential. This skill does cause minions to revive 25% more slowly. Quality counters this down to 20%, and you need to get quality on as quickly as possible, because the 5% makes all the difference. The final aura is Grim Feast. This is broken. As we slay our enemies, they have a chance of leaving behind a grim remnant. Picking these up recovers energy shields, which can overflow. In my case, I recover 684 energy shields for each one I pick up. This on its own can only be described as broken. It's even more broken in our case because when we kill our own minions, they have a chance of dropping a remnant. So we even get them in boss fights. Because we're always running around in order to detonate our own minions, we run into these by pure accident, without even thinking about it. It gives us an absolutely unparalleled amount of tank. I link this aura to Clarity for mana regen, because why not? Let's talk a little bit about the cost of the build. So far, I spent 2 Divines and 115 Exalted Orbs, so I'm quite a way under the 3 Divine budget, which leads us nicely to gear selection. And I'll talk about the paid items first. Our weapon is a Scepter, and this was 3 Exalted Orbs. The key role on this is minions have X% increased maximum life, and +4 to level of all minion skills. This can go up to +5 to level of all minion skills, but they are way more expensive. The other key thing about your Scepter is it provides an awful lot of spirit, and you need spirit to raise your minions. This is achieved by the base amount upon the Scepter, but also the 55% increased spirit. Our Scepter gives us 186 spirit in this case. Next, our helmet. This was 100 Exalted Orbs, and I actually think at that it was a bargain. We want as high a roll of evasion and energy shield as possible, but also +2 to level of minion skills. Our next item is the Focus. This was 10 Exalted Orbs, and what we want here is as much energy shield as possible. Any resistances are also a bonus. We are just using our gear to get to 75% all res. Our amulet set us back 1 divine, but it was well worth it. 40 to spirit, +2 to level of all minion skills, 17% all res, and increased evasion and energy shield. The chest piece was 1 divine. It has a ton of evasion and energy shield, along with some really nice resistances. And also 5% increased movement speed. That doesn't sound like a lot, but our boots only give us 10, so this takes us up to 15. The last item I paid for was the boots for 2 Exalted Orbs. This is the only unique item in use on the build. Okay, the rings, belts and gloves. These are there to fill stats, resistances, and just in general evasion and energy shield. The belt does want to be a fine belt to give us flash charges per second. I picked all of these up while leveling, and very few of them give me anything useful other than what I've already stated. The only reason I haven't switched any of these out is that the build just doesn't need it. It's so strong, nothing can kill it. For our flasks, we have a life flask. You want increased amount recovery and gains 0.15 charges per second. You pretty much want the same rolls on the mana flask. I just changed mine out because it's the first one I got with increased recovery. It doesn't have the charges per second, and you really do want this to keep Poisonous Concoction up all the time. You will not be able to use Poisonous Concoction on an empty mana flask. For my charm, in which I've only got one, I go for increased rarity of items found, because drops are good. Next, the Ascendancy, and we go Pathfinder. If you are going to level with Poisonous Concoction, which actually isn't a bad shout, then get this first. Otherwise, let's head to Overwhelming Toxicity first, which means pathing through Contagious Contamination. Contagious Contamination isn't awful, because it will make our strongest poison spread to all enemies in radius. And unlike in Path of Exile 1, poison is limited with the number of stacks you can have on a single enemy, so the strongest poisons are those that apply. For our last Ascendancy, get Traveller's Wisdom for +5 passive skill points. On the skill tree, when we come out of the Ranger starting area, we're actually going for the movement speed nodes. This, along with the boots and the chest, takes us up to 23% movement speed. You want to get at least 20% movement speed or it just feels bad. We're then going to go for the 2 local poison nodes. One of these gives you +1 to poison, which is doubled by our Ascendancy. We then come up here and grab Subterfuge. Only get this once you have Energy Shield on your helmet. Path all the way along and then start pathing up the right hand side of the tree and go for these poison nodes here. Come inwards and get Spectral Ward. This gives us increased energy shield based on the evasion on our body armor. Going up a little bit further from the jewel socket, we're going to come into these nodes here, which give us Pure Chaos, but also Wither Away. This allows Eye of Winter to apply Wither, and really strong Wither at that. Once you reach the jewel socket, we're going to head down and we're going to get these minion nodes here, ending in meat recycling. This gives us a whopping 40% chance not to destroy the corpses we consume. This means that when we consume our minions, they will not die. It also allows us to create poison clouds from corpses more than once in some cases. The next nodes we want are Necrotizing Flesh, and these leading up to it. These give our minions maximum life, which increases damage. Then go slightly to the left for Relentless Falling. This gives our minions 20% increased movement speed, which helps them keep up with us. Then we're going to go around the tree, grabbing as much energy shield and intelligence as is physically possible. For our jewels, we want to get 2 different things: magnitude of poison we inflict, poison duration, and as much increased energy shield as we can. The vast majority of my jewels are woeful. For the Amulet Anointment, I would go Holy Protector, but we can't actually get this at the moment because the distilled emotions it calls out to get it don't work. Are there any maps this build can't run? No. Are there any maps it shouldn't run? Yes, Burning Ground. Leveling, in hindsight, I'd have gone with all of the poisonous arrows because these synergize with our tree. As soon as I got my first Ascendancy, I would pick Poisonous Concoction. What do I think of the build? It's actually really good. It's a really calm playstyle, which you can't say for many other builds in the game. It's also really strong for both clear and for bossing. The other really nice thing about it is because 2 of our gems come from the Ascendancy and the boots, we don't have to spend any money on Greater Jeweler's Orbs or Perfect Jeweler's Orbs, saving a ton of money. If you have any questions about the build, leave them in the comments below. You can find my competitors' build top left and top right. Top left will be Cyclone, top right will be Lunatali. And with that, may the RNG be with you.